Okay, so I'm running late and I've made Leah Hirschfeld wait, and that's terrible because she is amazing. Leah Hirschfeld is joining us now. Often she joins us on Fridays, but we're doing a different kind of show tomorrow for various and sundry reasons. And so go ahead and have Leah join us. She is with explain to us, you're on the research team for the Center for Autism, right? Talk to us about
Yeah,
what you do.
yeah. So I'm on our research team. I'm a research coordinator at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I also meant to do a plug. Shannon, I loved the last 10 minutes getting to hear all of that. It was so lovely.
I'm
So
so glad. I worry when experts hear my explanations for things that sometimes they want to break out into hives.
No,
So,
it was so lovely, and it was so lovely when you were like, "This is so powerful." It was just so lovely to hear. So I actually, it was a great 10 minutes. When I joined. Anyway, sorry, team. So my name is Leah. I'm part of our research team here at CARD. I'm a research coordinator, and so what that means is that I get to spend my day, pretty luckily, I think, running studies. I work with our team to kind of come up with a research question and a research design that we're excited about. But also what drives our team is really how we can give the best of our resources to who we consider our stakeholders, which is going to be our families and our patients and our clinicians, and actually also our insurance companies, because all of those four groups kind of together make the community that we serve. So I spend my day kind of asking research questions. How can we best solve some questions that we're asking? I run studies, I run participants, I answer questions from clinicians, sometimes from parents, and then I get to come on Autism Live and talk about really cool research.
yeah, but everybody wants to work with you, Leah, because you're amazing and you make great things happen and you're so enthusiastic about what you do that everybody wants. It's like we have bidding wars about who can pull you onto a project because you're just amazing, and I need for you to know that everybody loves your energy and your enthusiasm and the heart that you bring to everything that you do, and you're just good. She's so like organized and good and passionate, you guys. It's a pleasure to have you with us for this and for other projects. We just have to keep fighting to get your time because everybody wants her.
Well,
So, and
thank you
that's a
so much. I'll come on the show every day if I get this. That's
well,
fantastic.
but unfortunately other people want you. So I have to like, put in my requests and give a quart of blood and offer other things in return for Leah's time. And that's all good. I'm willing to do that because she's amazing. So
Would
I don't
you, here's the question though, would you stand in line for 2 days and put up a tent? Am I Oprah
I
level?
I think I might, Leah. I think I
Oh
might,
wow,
which
no,
I
I
hadn't
was
really thought
kidding.
about before.
That's too kind.
So
Anyway,
I think that might it no, honestly, recently I asked if I could have Leah to work on a project and I was like, oh, what do I have that I can offer up? And I was negotiating my took us off. If somebody had said, are you willing to sit in line for 2 days with a tent? I probably would have, Leah, to have you involved in that project. So there you go.
that's
Um,
way too kind. Way too kind. Thank
well,
you.
no,
Thank you.
truth. But I don't remember because we changed. You were going to be with us on Friday, and we changed it twice. I don't remember what our topic is today. I don't remember what we assigned. So enlighten me.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited about this topic. So Shannon, and I can't remember if this was this week, I think it was last week, you and Nancy talked about a press release about a study that's coming out. I tried to find the study. I think it's still like in publication and things. But the press release was saying that fathers who read to their children with ASD, that relationship correlates to lower signs of depression, lower symptoms of depression in moms, in their partners. And we always, Karen and I always ask when we come on, is there anything that your listeners want to hear about? We can always pick a really cool topic, but we want to make sure that what we're doing provides the best information for your audience. And so you had mentioned this to me, and the next thing that we thought about was to kind of talk about care stress, and what ways could we ameliorate, what ways can we make caregiver stress less, and to connect this to the beginning of the show, all those ABA terms and all that conversation and everything you're talking about there is so powerful and so important. And to your point, it's true about all people, right? Like we all do access maintained behaviors, but it's also really hard. It's really hard to think about something like that and to do the index card at the supermarket. Like it's hard to
Mhm.
be a parent. And launching into this, there's been research done about caregiver stress. And I'll say I use caregivers. I mean parents. I mean legal guardians. I'm trying to be more inclusive because not everyone who takes care of a child is a biological parent. So I'm going to say caregivers just for everyone. That's why I'm using that term. Um, but it's really hard. It is really flipping hard to be a caregiver of a child, especially a child with autism. And there's research about caregivers of autistic children experiencing more stress than caregivers of non-autistic children. That makes sense. But that's true even if those non-autistic children have other disabilities, have other delays. Those parents with those caregivers of autistic children are still experiencing higher stress than caregivers of other children with delays, and also caregivers of neurotypical children. That's like it's really really hard to be a caregiver of an autistic child. And so the study I wanted to talk about today is a study by Devenish, and if they're watching, I'm sorry if I just butchered your last name, but Devenish and her team that came out a few months ago back in November of 2020. And this study looked at community support and community participation and caregiver stress. And to me, well, I'll take a step back. There's a lot of research being done already about the stress that caregivers of autistic children feel. And there's a lot of research probably coming out. My guess is this year, especially with the pandemic. And I can only imagine how much more stress people felt. There's going to be a lot more research, is my guess, coming out soon about this. But this study I thought was really interesting because on top of, I love getting to bring in like so many research papers. There was another study as well about caregivers of autistic individuals who have been found to internalize negative social views, and that deteriorates the quality of life for themselves, for their families. It hinders their social lives. It affects self-esteem. They may feel misunderstood socially. They may feel negative prejudice, right? Like if you're going to your grocery store and your child is screaming and throwing a tantrum and can't communicate, you might feel as a caregiver really socially isolated and internalizing the negative views you might be feeling from the community.
Judged the word you're looking for? Because yeah, judged. We
Yeah,
feel judged. We feel
absolutely.
judged.
And caregivers are internalizing that. Not only do they feel judged, they like deeply, deeply feel that. And that's terrible. It's really, really hard. So with all of that in mind, right, caregivers of autistic children are feeling more stress. Caregivers of autistic individuals are really internalizing that judgment that they feel. So I feel really passionate about like getting some resources out there. So with that whole spiel before, this study by Devenish and her team looks at community support and community participation of autistic children and caregiver stress. And again, I think this might be even more important considering that a lot of communities might have been disrupted during the pandemic, right? If you had a religious community you were going to, you might not have been able to do that as easily, or etc. And I'll throw in the takeaway really quickly at the beginning, and then I'll go through the study, and then I'll talk about, again, the takeaway and some interventions. And Shannon, I can only imagine you have probably a thousand, yeah, like you're probably like on the edge of your seat ready to talk about this. So the takeaway, what these researchers found is that lower perceived levels of community support. So when caregivers thought that there was less community support, and what that really means is like the environment wasn't supporting them to go out into their community, may reduce the involvement of their children with ASD. And then also that increases the feelings of isolation in their caregivers. So I'll go through and talk about the study, but community is super important and really might also be affecting the isolation that some caregivers may be feeling. And that in turn also has some relationship to your child's behaviors and things. And I'll talk all about that. So this was caregivers of 48 children with ASD. Everyone, it was a study in Australia. And so everyone in Australia had to have a formal diagnosis of ASD, and it uses the DSM criteria. And so it was 48 caregivers of 48 children with ASD, ages 5 to 12. So we're talking like kindergarten to sixth grade, probably. And what they looked at is they had caregivers report child ASD symptom severity. So if you've done this before, this is like the Vineland that you might be familiar with, or the SRS. Lots of acronyms, lots of fun names. But so those forms, and then they also had the caregiver report parenting stress. You may also have filled this out yourself as a caregiver. This is the PSI. It asks some very it asks a lot of intense questions. Yeah, that's a totally inappropriate face. It's one page of blah. Totally. Yeah. So and then they also asked about caregivers reported perceived community support. And this is a very political paper. When they say perceived, like this is how the caregivers are seeing their community. This may or may not actually be whatever, but this is how the caregivers are perceiving, which is the most important part. And what they're talking about when community support is they're looking about access and resources. They're looking if the environment supports their child going to the playground, to have a sleepover, to etc. And so we've got 44 male children and 4 female children. Typical spread. Yep, not very many girls, but that is typical. And the caregivers are 30 moms and 9 dads. And I will say, actually, the 9 dads is awesome. It is really, really hard to get males, to get fathers to participate in research, period, especially when it involves children. That stereotype kind of holds true, unfortunately, that moms are more involved there. So if you're listening, any dads, please get involved in research. We want to hear about your perspectives too. Any moms, please encourage dads to also get involved. That's my quick plug. If I get to come on, I get to do a plug. And so first off, 1 in 3 of the caregivers met the clinical cutoff for high parental stress. 31% of those caregivers said they were having high clinical stress. They're real stressed out, basically. And then they also have a bunch of information about what those children have participated in. So 33% of the kids had never participated in an organized physical activity. Never played soccer in an organized physical way. You never did football, never did any of those activities. 69% had never participated in classes or lessons outside of school. That's 2 in 3 of these kids. 88%, so almost none of them, basically, right? 9 out of 10 had never participated in organizations, clubs, groups, or leadership activities. So they didn't go to book club, or I don't know, I went to Manga club when I was in 6th grade. They didn't do any of those. 63% had never participated in religious activities. So that's 2 of 3. This was a little bit surprising, not because I think everyone's religious, only because I would expect that religious activities might be a nicer, safer feeling community. I don't know if that's true at all. This is just my gut feeling about religion. Anyway, 22% had never gotten together with other children in the community, and 45% had never had an overnight. So I want to say those things because to me it was really eye-opening as to all of these amazing opportunities that a lot of our kids are missing. And I can't imagine not having had soccer when I was growing up. I went to Hebrew school. I'm Jewish. I went to Hebrew school, right? I was in clubs after school, all of those things, and some of my best friends, right? These are super important things for both the families. Also, I came home at 5 p.m. instead of 3 after school. All these things are really important. And so 55% of the caregivers, so a majority of the caregivers, identified features of the environment as not supportive. So this is a huge barrier to access, right? Playgrounds don't have a low fence, so you're concerned your child's going to elope. Or they don't have easy access to climb or something like that, right? Etc. And so community supportiveness was predictive of child involvement. If the community has those supports, if you're not concerned your child's going to elope, if you're not concerned your child's going to accidentally fall off something too high, I don't know all those supports, right? But that was predictive of child involvement. If you have those supports, your child's probably going to be much more likely to be involved, to really participate. And also, community support explained caregiver isolation. It explained 18% of caregiver isolation, which is a pretty good number, actually. And so that's super important, right? This community support may really help. And the point that I want to also bring to here is that we know that our caregivers prioritize their child over themselves. That is awesome. You guys are amazing parents, and parents in general, I just think are heroes. They're amazing. But it's also super important that you take care of yourself. And I mentioned this at the beginning as well. You know, there's this relationship, it's bi-directional, so it means it goes both ways, between caregiver stress and your child's challenging behaviors. Your child knows if you're stressed out, your child knows if you're upset, and they are reacting to that. So if we see your stress, if we see a caregiver stress increase, we see also that challenging behaviors are going to increase in your child. Similarly, if your stress goes down, we see that challenging behaviors also go down. So when you also prioritize yourself and self-care, and again, we know this community is so important, right? So getting involved with the community, and I also like I already said, being a parent right now and generally super stressful. So you don't want to add any stress to try to find yourself a community. But there might be one that you feel comfortable with. Maybe it is your religious organization. Maybe it's something you can talk to, like, oh, can we set up a Saturday afternoon? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something that you can talk to your clinician about. You know, if you have an ABA clinician at card, you know there are other families in the area that potentially also have and are experiencing the same things you have. There's HIPAA rules and things, but you can talk to a clinician and say, hey, I want to set up a play date. Do you have someone in mind? And the clinician can say, absolutely, and go find you someone, right? And you guys can go to the park together. And maybe that caregiver also has some experiences. Your child gets a friend, they get to hang out, whatever it looks like. I don't know, safety in numbers too. Maybe you'll feel less judged as well when you go. Um, you know, there's just so much that's important there. I think also it's important to normalize stress. We're stressed, and it's okay. You're not like a failure as a human or as a parent at all to say that you're stressed out or that you need some help, or that not even that you need it, that you just want it. You're like, maybe you just want it. That's totally cool. And you know, you can talk to your ABA clinician. They're not a talk therapist, but they can also help. Like if you can come to them and say, I get really stressed with meal times. It is so hard. I'm trying to cook. You know, my partner's still at work. I've got 3 kids, whatever it is. And the clinician can say, okay, we don't have to add like additional things for you to try to do with your child during mealtime. Maybe that's something we focus on at the clinic while he's here, and we practice and we, you know, give examples, etc. So talk to your therapist, not therapist, sorry, talk to your clinician. They're not a therapist. Talk to your clinician. You can try to set up play dates, try to get involved with the community. Also, another plug, research has found that caregivers who feel that their child's teacher is an ally, when you feel you have a community there, you have a connection there, that they also may report less stress. Open access, open communication there. I know that's a whole nother bucket of challenges, but it's super important to make sure that you have a community. And that can look like so many things, right? That can look like additional family support, you know, that can look like setting up a play date with cousins if they're nearby. It can look like talking to your clinician to find a play date. It can just go to the park. Maybe you strike up a conversation. It can be talking to your religious community. It can be a lot of things, but taking the time to get involved in the community, while it may seem like something that you can deprioritize, could actually really be something that will help with your stress, help with your child as well, and be a lovely, lovely benefit. Um,
I love this, Leah. You know, on the one hand, I like to call certain studies, you know, it's the duh heard around the world,
mhm,
and there's a little bit of a duh to this, right? Because it makes so
mhm,
much sense that families who feel like they have some sort of community support have less stress. It's like, well, duh.
duh.
But what I loved all the detail that you went into, because I think whenever I'm talking to a parent, it's very often that, you know, I'll say to them, what support do you have? And
Mhm,
very often that's when the tears come. And I'm gonna
mhm,
get emotional thinking about a parent I just talked to the other day. And they said, I have no one. I have no one. I have no family. I have no friends anymore. The friends I had now, they don't like my child. And it's dealing with, you had a community and you lost your community. through having a child with autism, and that's devastating. Now, some people that didn't happen, but for a lot of us that happened. But I want to say to everybody, if you listen to all the things that Leah said, I know it's hard. But if you are willing to step outside your comfort zone a little bit, there is a community that's waiting to welcome you in its arms. Even in COVID, I know it's so hard, but there are lots of meetings that are happening online that are parents of other people who feel exactly the way you do. And there's even social groups online for your kids and your teens and your adults. We talk all the time here on the show about locally here in Los Angeles, we have the Ed Asner Family Center. And I know Matt and Nava Asner Paskowitz, who started it, this was exactly the thing that they were trying to answer. They created a center, a place where everyone can go and feel at home. And that there are classes and there are dances and there are events and things of that nature. And I feel so lucky that I don't have to create a place. They created it for me. But I think that if people look around, sometimes they will see that someone's got something, or they get together with another parent and they help to create it. I think about one mom that I know that lives in Corpus Christi that needed this. And she found one other mom, and then together they created a play group. And then all these other moms
Oh.
would come into the group. And sometimes that's all that it takes. And I do think some people have the benefit of being able to go to their church or their synagogue or their temple, and they have this. And other people have found that their religious community has not caught up to inclusion. We did a show about this not long ago. I think the thing that's hardest is that sometimes the people you go to expect to be your community because they have in the past aren't ready when you get there. But that doesn't mean it's your only choice. I just want to say to everyone who's watching, one of the reasons why we started doing this show was because I remember in the early days, I felt like I was alone on Mars. And I remember saying, I don't ever want another person to feel as alone as I feel right now. And I found out later on how not alone I was. And it was so healing to know, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not on Mars. I'm here with a whole bunch of people. We have a bunch of people that have been writing in, and some of it on top of it topics, some of it a little bit different. But I want to address some of this stuff if you don't mind, Leah.
Absolutely.
Somebody wrote earlier. I was talking about the 40-hour-a-week thing because somebody wrote to me. I don't know if you heard that part. Somebody wrote to me and said in Canada, they're telling everybody 9 hours is enough, no matter what the age, no matter. And the top of my head came off and flew around the room and said, "Show me the study." You would have been so proud of me, Leah. I was like, "Show me the research that says that." And I want to get Trudeau on the show to show me the research. But I talked a little bit about our experience, and somebody wrote in and said, one of the things I'm constantly challenged with is knowing if I'm making the right choices. And she went on to say, I was offered 40 hours a week when he was 4. I just could not see it. We opted for school, 9 to 15 hours a week. Now I feel terrible. And I'm sending you a hug because I want you to know you are not alone, and that many people are in this position right now today, that somebody has offered their 3 or 4 or 5-year-old a 40-hour program with insurance, and school says, that's crazy. You should come and do school. And I'm a former school teacher, love school, don't want to say anything bad about school, except for that age range. The studies don't back it up. That's not, but you did not know. And we just talked about this yesterday, the Maya Angelou quote about, we did what we did when we knew what we knew, and now we know more, and now we do better. And I can tell you, Mom, from all the moms across time, none of us did this perfectly. Not a single one of us. Nobody did this perfectly. And if you find out something now that you wish you knew then, spread the word. Spread the word, but start today and say, what can I do today? Because you don't get to re-legislate what happened before. And every minute that you waste being in the woulda, shoulda, coulda is a moment that you could be doing something now. Share your story though, and tell people, hey, if you get offered a 40-hour program, you should pay attention to that because later on you might think differently about this. But let's start with from where you are today and forgive yourself. Do you know how many do you know, like, financially I'm still like, because I didn't know information that I could have been paid to take care of my child. I used to pray every day saying, show me what to do, because if I just had a way more with my child and not have to work, this would go better. It was there, but nobody told me. I beat myself up about that, especially now that we need money for college. I kick myself sideways about that. But you know what? I didn't know. You didn't know. Hug yourself, love on yourself, but decide what you want to do today and have that be based on science and what your child needs today. Just sending you a hug. But they also want to know, are any experience or solid studies, and this might be something for another show, Leah, regarding the use of listening therapy as an adjunct for autism. We've had people on to talk about Baralt and Tomatis before, but would love to know. I know that the FDA ruled it as an educational therapy. I don't know if there's new studies about it with autism. Is that something you'd be willing to look up for us, Leah?
Absolutely, yeah. I think actually on the next show, Karen Nolte will be coming on. She was supposed to be
Okay.
this month as well. But my guess is she'll probably come on the next show, and we will totally look that up. I know listening therapy. I also don't know. I don't know as much about listening therapy. I don't know also how much that overlaps with like cognitive behavioral therapy as well, or acceptance commitment therapy ACT. I think they all kind of potentially swirl around each other a little.
I think, but correct me if I'm wrong for the parent that's writing this in. There's some very specific sound
Oh,
headphones stuff that helps modulate so that you're able to recognize phonemes.
oh, we
So
mean
there's
literally listen. We mean actually. Okay, yeah,
Yes,
no, I know nothing about
literally
that. I will
listening
look it up.
instead
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
talk. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think that that's what we're talking about, and usually
Okay.
that's Baralt or Tomatis. And
Okay.
we have had people on talking about that before. I know for some of our kiddos, that's been really amazingly effective. And for other kids, it was just a nothing burger, and it's kind of expensive. There are people who give grants for it, but let's find out about the research because I love to
I'll do it.
follow the science. But I love this next question because I think it's at the heart of where a lot of us are on a daily basis. Certainly, when my son was younger, this was my mantra. I'm struggling with how to distinguish between
Oh.
autism and when a child is engaged in, and they said bad behavior. Bad's always but behaviors that are not what we want to see, right? So I remember always being like, is he doing that because of autism, or is this just him misbehaving? Any thoughts on that, Leah, before we continue on? And we're almost out of time.
My feeling is that a lot of it, and I will say, like, I'm not a BCBA, so please take this all with a grain of salt. And this is something also Karen Nolte, who is a BCBA, might be able to come on and add a little plug beforehand. But my feeling is when you have challenging behaviors and distinguishing them between like maybe autistic symptoms, my gut is to say that all those ABA terms, all those suggestions, Shannon, that you made at the beginning about access maintained behaviors and about ways to mitigate that, they go hand in hand, kind of regardless of if it's because your child has a diagnosis or because they're hungry. I know I get hangry, and it's so I think I don't know that necessarily differentiating is going to be maybe the most helpful. I think working with your clinician and coming up with a way to resolve all of those interactions that are maybe not what you expected or not what you are hoping for or are disruptive. All of that is something I think you just talk to your clinician about and come up with a sound plan and include like this is a really challenging behavior and you can talk about those concerns. But I think you treat them the same way,
Yeah.
regardless of necessarily if they stem because of an autism diagnosis or not.
Yeah. I love that Dr. Graham Pichet always says that like tantrums and things of that nature, it's not part of an autism diagnosis. It's a symptom of not being able to communicate, which is part of an autism diagnosis. But it's like having that understanding of it and being empathetic about that's why the behavior is happening is really important. But then we just get to work on the behavior, and it's working on it with that individual in those circumstances. So I agree completely with what Leah is saying. It's, I think so often where we get into a problem is that parents will excuse behavior that is inappropriate and go, well, they have autism. And that is what I think we all need to be careful. If they're struggling with something, they're struggling with something, but they're a living, breathing human being who's learning, right? So we need to be compassionate about that. But I don't think it's good to ever excuse a behavior and that's inappropriate. I was once at I was at an event where a person, and Logan Shepherd was going to be playing the drums. And so all these people from the autism community and all these people from the community came, and we were all in one place. And there was I don't want to tell too much because I don't want people to know who I'm talking about, but one person on the spectrum came and joined us at our table, and at a certain point he turned around. A pizza was delivered for the people at the next table, and he just turned around with his hands and just grabbed the pizza. And and I was like, oh, no, we don't do that. And the mom went, well, he has autism. And that was the end of the discussion for her. And for me, I'm like, no, like autism is not why he grabbed the pizza. Like, no. I mean, he's a human being and he wanted what he wanted, but this is a person who has great understanding. So I just think it's important for us as parents not to just go, well, we're not going to teach our children manners. We're not going to teach them what's appropriate because they have autism. We're going to teach it. We just might teach it with a lot more empathy, a lot more opportunities, a lot more rewards, so that it's fair. Our topic of the week, we want it to be fair, but we don't just go, oh, no. But I know sometimes this question comes in for like, how upset do we get about something, or how much do we punish it? And I will just say to you, I love ABA because ABA is not about punishing it anyway, right? It's because you know what, the punishment thing that we were all raised with, it doesn't work. If it worked, there would be no prisons, right? And I don't want to be the parent who's punishing my child, and I'm imagining that you guys don't either. What we want is to be able to connect with our child, have our child connect with other people, and for us all to be happy. And that's why I love me some good quality ABA, because they will reward the child into doing the behavior that we wanted them to do. And then they're happier, we're happier. Ooh, angels sing. Really quickly, somebody wrote in and said, we are blessed that our church, the children's director quarterly assigns a buddy for our son that he can participate in the children's classes. They also have a sensory room designed by an OT where we can go to retreat if needed. I had no idea this was even something that existed, though we had been members of the church for a long time. Additionally, we have been able to meet other families with similar circumstances, and that is a gift. That is an absolute gift. I'm glad you have that. I hope more churches do what your church did. We're so out of time. Leah, I just want to thank you so much, because I think you've given us a tool chest. Even though we're in COVID and it's hard to connect with our community, there's something for everybody. And I want to encourage everybody. It's better for your child. And look, it reduces your stress. We know this for a fact.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for having me on. It's always honestly just a highlight of my month to get to come on and talk about Autism Live and hear all of the wonderful stories. And I'll make a plug also, I keep staring at this button that says like us on Facebook. And Shannon, to your point, you created Autism Live in part so that folks have a community. I don't have Facebook, so I don't really know, but I'm sure there's Facebook communities as well. I've been looking at this button for the last 10 minutes and really wanted to make that plug. So I know we're over time, but please, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff on Facebook. I'm sure you can go through Autism Live also on Facebook. Look up those communities, reach out also to your clinician, find a play date. It's just, yeah, it's really, it's
or
really
even find something online. I know people have said to us, how are you getting through this? Because we've been severe isolationists for a year, and people are like, how are you getting through this? We have regular Zoom parties online. We see friends, we talk to them, we are seeing their faces. And I know everybody goes, oh, it's just not the same thing. You're right. It's not, but it is a whole lot better than nothing. And it's been good for my child to connect with our friends and see them online.
And
It's not the
really
same.
quickly on that
Yep.
too, also with the kids, they can play video together online. There's a lot of, and that's like standard 8-year-old behavior, 8 to like, I don't know, 29,000. Like that's what everyone does, right? So like totally appropriate also to set up like a video game date. I know we try to stay away from screens and things and all that, but if it's a community
COVID.
and yeah, yeah, totally.
Rules out the
Yeah.
window. Every night at 8, my son gets together with friends, and sometimes they watch a movie together online. Sometimes they play a video game. Sometimes they just chat. And it's not all shoot 'em up video games. They play trivia games together. There's a great game that they play where they have to improv. They get the name of something and a product, and they have to put them together, and then they have to like pitch an advertising idea. There's all kinds of things that they can be doing online that are good for them and social and with their friends. All right. We just can't stop because it's so good. All right. Tomorrow we're back with an Autism Live that's a pre-taped Autism Live. I'm just gonna keep it real and be honest because I'm not here. I have to go spend a minute with my child before he goes off to college. But we're back on Monday. And on Monday, can I tell you guys, it's crazy, crazy good. We have Torquil Sone with us on Monday. I just got confirmation. He is the founder of Special Eastern. He's got a big announcement about World Autism Awareness Day at the UN, what the topic is this year, and you're going to go bazonga bazinga about it because it's great. The CEO of Special Eastern is going to be here, and we're going to talk about, well, I'm just going to give you a hint, employment and how it's happening on the autism community and how the world is getting on board, y'all. It's Monday. You are not going to, I have goosies, right? You're not going to want to miss this. And it's all gearing up because Tuesday we start our special programming for April, which you guys are just, I just think you're going to love it. We've pre-taped some things because we had to, and it's just awesome, you guys. So can't wait to share with you. You're going to feel the hope, feel the love. You're going to want to dance in the street. Okay, so until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you, all of you. Bye-bye
Thank you
for
all
now.
so much.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.